Cayman Wolf the Decrepit Gamer here. You know, you can do a lot of things in virtual reality. You can play golf and ping pong and drive race cars and basketball and everything else. But there are two things that virtual reality, to my mind, does particularly well. One of them is first-person shooting games, and the other are sword games. Shooting and sword play. Strange then that you can find an absolute plethora of gun stock attachments, but it seems nearly impossible to find an attachment that simulates a two-handed sword hilt for sword fighting games. And I've looked. I have found golf club attachments and ping pong paddle attachments and maul saber attachments and steering wheel attachments. Of course, I found more gun stocks than I'd care to count, but I have not been able to find a two-handed sword hilt attachment. Well, let me elaborate a little bit. I did find one. Glisco, the makers of the MagnaStock VR gun stock, made one for the Quest 2. You can see it right here. However, it was reliant upon the rings on the Quest 2 controllers. Well, the Quest 3 doesn't have these rings, so this doesn't work for the Quest 3. And of course, it was specific to the Quest 2, so it doesn't work for any of the other VR headsets as well. Well, my friends, I found one. It just so happens that the awesome WieldVR OneStock can be reconfigured as a two-handed sword attachment. Let me show you how that works. Reconfiguring the WieldVR OneStock for use as a two-handed sword hilt is incredibly straightforward and can be done in less than a minute. The first step is to remove this bracket off the end here, which I assume is only here to prevent the stock portion from sliding off of this bar when readjusting it with the headset on. Remove that. Next, you'll just want to loosen the stock portion, slide that off, set it aside. Then unlock the length adjustment and shorten the bar and lock it back. Then loosen this top torque hinge right here. Set this controller mount to a 90-degree angle and tighten it back up. Loosen the bottom torque hinge and set this to as little of an angle as you possibly can and still be able to grip it with your hand like so. Now, depending on whether you're right or left-handed, you can swap these controller mounts by loosening these toolless wing nuts here, removing them. I find it most convenient to take the bottom controller mount and face it away from the bar, as you see here. And what that allows you to do is to grip that bottom controller mount at much less of an angle, if you can see here. See how that's a much less of an angle? It's almost perpendicular to that bar, and that allows both hands to be almost perpendicular to one another. Once the controller mounts are properly oriented and adjusted for the correct distance between your hands, just simply grip these two controller mounts as if you're holding a two-handed sword. So now that you've seen how to reconfigure the WieldVR OneStock as a two-handed sword hilt, let's take a look at how it performs in a couple of games. All right, let's see how this two-handed sword attachment feels here. Oh yeah. Yeah, that feels good. Oh, these freaking archers, man. Come here. Come here, you son of a bitch. Archers, archers, archers. Now, you're the one I've been looking for, asshole. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Okay, so the main thing I want is a loadout that's got a two-handed sword attached. So I'm using a rare greatsword, 37 damage plus knockback distance. It's a little strange with the bottom hand, with the offhand being at a bit of an angle. But the main thing is it keeps your two hands locked together, which is what you want in a two-handed sword grip. All right, let's try this sword grip, see how this works. Feels like it's a better stabbing weapon than slashing weapon, honestly. Oh yeah. As you get used to it, it gets better and better. Awesome, awesome. Just like any VR attachment, I guess, it's a semblance of reality. Slightly different than what you expect, and so you need to train your brain. Yeah, having this two-handed sword hilt makes it's difficult to stab accurately in this game. Definitely takes some practice, but having this two-handed sword attachment definitely makes it easier to stab more accurately with this two-handed sword. This is a character that I've had for a while, and so I've got a lot of these weapons unlocked. I've never really been big on two-handed swords like the great sword in this game because it's always been very awkward to try to use two-handed weapons in sword fighting games in VR. But now I think I'm going to be able to do it. So I'm going to use a great sword. Okay, here we are. Two-handed sword grip. WieldVR two-handed sword attachment. Knights, level 1. Oh, I almost got him in the face. Yeah, this thing feels good, man. Feels good to have your hands kind of attached together like this. I didn't like two-handed swords in sword games before for that very reason. Off with your head, bitch. Oh yeah, you got a lot of reach with this thing, man. There you go. And you die. All right, let's head back. And there you have it, folks. An excellent two-handed sword hilt attachment. The only thing I feel like could be improved here is if this portion of this bracket were extended slightly so that when you grip this bottom portion of the sword hilt, you could grip it at a true 90-degree angle, exactly perpendicular to the top controller mount here. It's very, very close, as you can see. So close you may be able to just convince your brain that that they are perpendicular. But I feel like if WieldVR were to design and manufacture a separate controller mount that were specifically to be used as a two-handed sword grip, and on that controller mount this portion of the bracket were extended slightly, it would be actually just perfect. But I have to say that this is emergent behavior. I don't believe that this was designed to be a two-handed sword hilt. I believe it just happens to work very nicely that way. So if WieldVR were to actually specifically design a couple of controller mounts to act as a two-handed sword hilt, that would be the thing that their engineers would probably want to do, would be to extend this a little bit. So that's it, my friends. I was thrilled when I discovered this, and I hope you find it useful as well. If you do, please remember to do these things here. For more tips, tricks, and hints, plus game reviews, product reviews, and awesome gameplay, subscribe to the Decrepit Gamer channel. This is Cayman Wolf, the Decrepit Gamer, reminding you that you're never too old to game, and my friends, I am out.
I'm the Decrepit Gamer, don't you give me no lag. Got my console, got my stacks, and I'm ready to frag. Who says YouTube, oh, the be a digital night? I'll be rated in my slippers till the morning light.